So here we are in one of the most beautiful European cities, which is Krakow in Poland, which for years has been visited by millions of people from all around the world. It's a beautiful day, the sun is shining, so what else could we ask for? How about a very profound, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually conversation with one of the most famous, important founding fathers of personal development, with a business consultant, the one who has worked all over the world and visited more than 70 countries, the one who has written more than 70 books translated into 40 languages, the one who is observed by 2 million people on his Facebook account, and the one who knows everything about time management, planning, and is expert on how to achieve success. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor and pleasure to interview my today's guest, Brian Tracy. So Brian, thank you so much for being here, and I'm so glad that I can ask you a question, especially when you have visited again and again and again this country where all your knowledge and your abilities are helping us to grow. And I was born in Poland, and there's a spiritual and emotional connection I have with those people, and I perceive there's a lot of potential which Poles don't take advantage of. From your point of view, what can we as the nation do more of? What's our potential that we don't perceive losing opportunity?
Every human being has an intense desire to improve themselves. It is the driving force of all of human life throughout history. And all you need to do is remove the barriers from ambition and goal setting and achievement, and people will naturally strive for the barriers, strive for the goals. Here's the problem. The problem is 70 years of communism. 70 years of communism kills the soul in most people. So it takes a full generation after communism before a whole new people grows up who do not have any of these limits. So you'll find that most of your successful entrepreneurs in Poland are younger, and they have no limits because they did not grow up under that system. Now, if Poland wants to be more prosperous in the future, and it's already one of the most prosperous countries in the world, number 2 in Europe.
Well,
and if it wants to be more prosperous, it must take away regulations and taxes that hold people back from starting new businesses and enterprises. That is the key to success in every economy in the world throughout history.
all right. Is there a mentality involved in it as well? Because one thing is, the outer world, taxes, regulations, laws, and so on. Another thing is mentality, openness towards success, knowing personal branding, and all the other things that are quite helpful in it.
In my experience, and I've taught this for more than 30 years, it is the way that parents treat children when they are growing up that sets their mind for when they become adults. It's almost like they set down concrete, and the concrete foundation is the way they think about themselves. So what I've done with my children, and what many of my students have done with their children, is continually feed them this positive message that when you grow up, you can do anything. You can do anything you put your mind to. And whenever they're discouraged, you say, look, just keep trying. You can do anything you put your mind to. And you program it into them, just like you're programming a mental computer. And when they grow up and they take on challenges and they have setbacks and disappointments, they say, hey, wait a minute, I can do anything I put my mind to. And then they never quit. You see, the most important quality for success is to never quit. If you never quit, then you must eventually be successful.
All right. This is an important topic you're bringing up, which is parenthood. Because mostly, from my experience, we are limited by, it's either a lack of knowledge of our parents, how to bring us up, or it's culture, like communism that you mentioned. I can also see a lot of opportunity in soft skills education, like communication and personal branding and sales. And something that I've come across here in this country is that people are very clever when it comes to intellectual topics. They know physics, they know chemistry, they know history. I mean, you ask an average teenager, they will know all the capital cities of the world on the map. But when it comes to selling themselves, when it comes to the ability to talk, to convince people, then out of my experience, I don't know what yours is, people tend to put it aside. And I'm worried that they are losing a lot of opportunity that they could have if they employed more soft skill education.
Well, again, I've spoken on this for many years, And when I was growing up, my parents were Catholic and very critical, criticizing all the time. And so eventually I reached the point where I didn't want to speak up at all because I would be criticized. And this has happened to more than 80% of the population. So with my children, I have 4 children, I've encouraged them always to express themselves. Never made them feel guilty. They can say anything that they want. They can argue, they can fight, they can disagree, and they've grown up to the point where they expect to be able to express themselves, and they're all good salespeople. They're all wonderful at persuasion, and they're very popular with their friends because they have complete self-confidence.
Do you think that those sets of skills like sales, persuasion, communication, emotional intelligence are universal and don't depend on the culture?
Yes, but they can be learned.
Yeah.
And when my 2 sons graduated from college, they came to me 4 or 5 years apart and asked me for my advice on how to be successful. And I said, go out and get a sales job, knocking on doors and making sales. And do that for 6 months or a year. And after that, you'll never be afraid again. And they both did it. And today they are so confident and so persuasive, and they're so relaxed. My one son said, I'll never have to worry about money again because I'm not afraid to sell.
All right.
And that made me so happy.
So you consider sales and ability to persuade one of the most important skills?
According to Harvard, it is the #1 personality skill. The most important of all personality skills is your ability to persuade others to cooperate with you, to work with you, to do their work, to buy your products. Because the reverse of that is that you are simply persuaded by others to do what they want.
Yes, which means you are not a leader, but you're led by someone else.
Yes.
All right.
So the leader is always good at persuasion.
All right. Do you think it's connected with certain aspects of educational systems that we have? Because mostly at schools we're educated what chemistry is, what physics is, what geography is, but unfortunately you cannot have an MBA, at least in this country, when it comes to sales. I mean, you can be an expert in how bees produce honey, but you cannot be an expert in sales.
Well, people choose their occupations based on their personalities. People choose to be teachers because deep down inside they fear depending upon their ability to persuade for their income. So they choose a profession where they don't have to actually get results. And once they have tenure, they can never be fired. That's why people work for the government.
All right.
Because once you get a job with the government, after a reasonable period of time, you have job security for lunch and you never have to persuade anyone to be successful. Entrepreneurs are completely different.
Yeah.
They are willing to make all of their success dependent on their ability to get results of some kind.
Okay, so there is a difference in mentality.
Yes.
You take those two people, and one is more risk-oriented, more open, more tough, most probably, when it comes to solving real-life problems.
Yes. What they are is they are more resilient. In other words, they bounce back. They keep bouncing back. You know, one of the things that I've told my children when they were growing up, because I am programming them, I say, you know, I know one thing about you. You never give up. And each of my children, they would say, oh, I got this. I said, well, I'm your father, and I know one thing about you. You never give up. All 4 of my children are growing up. And if you ask them, do you ever give up? No, they never give up. And they don't. They try different things, but they never give up. And so that's part, and then they look for fields of opportunity where this quality can be very useful. Sales, marketing, persuasion, entrepreneurship, business, training, consulting. They look for opportunity areas where they will be successful because they will never give up.
Great. Having been to so many different cultures and countries, do you see any universal traits that successful people have that don't depend on age, gender, or culture that they come from?
The most important quality is ambition, is a very intense desire to improve yourself through your own efforts. And ambition is the one quality that if you have it, you will be successful. And if you don't have it, nothing can help you.
All right.
I had a man in my seminar who came up and he said, look, he said, I make a good income, I'm quite happy, I have no desire to earn any more money. And so you talk about ambition, what do you suggest I should do? And I said, why don't you go and shoot yourself? Because you have no future.
Of course.
If you're not hungry to improve your life, you know, it's interesting. Men, when they get married, increase the amount that they work by 30 or 40 or 50%.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yes, and they also increase their time management. They become more productive because now they are providing and taking care of their family.
Yeah.
And that's very important for men, to know that I'm taking good care of my family. So their level of ambition or desire or determination goes up when they get married, because now they want to be sure that their family is well taken care of.
No, right?
And they even die, and men die an average of 7 or 8 years younger than women do, because they are willing to work very, very hard their whole life.
Brian has been talking a lot about the importance of the family, and I'd like to elaborate on this and take a moment to express my highest gratitude and say thank you to all the husbands and wives who are supportive and helpful when it comes to successful spouses. It's very important to realize that sometimes you see someone on the front stage, someone who's a business leader, someone who's a famous person, maybe even a celebrity, and we see them shining and being beautiful and effective and doing great things. In the same time, what we don't see is the backstage. We don't see people who are helping them. We don't see the people who are motivating them. We don't see people who are always there to help them in very difficult moments and in crisis. It's a very important and statistical fact that husbands, people who are married, live longer lives. People who are happily married, they have less health problems. People who have families are grounded, are centered, and can perform better. The success which we usually connect in our Western world with having more money, with being more successful at what you do, with having a higher status in the society, is only one side of the coin. Another one is the fundamental role of family, which always makes sure that someone can perform very well when outside. So let's not forget, and let's remember, all of us, that if you see a very successful person, always you will find a very successful team of employees, of family members, of people who are supporting them, and people thanks to whom they can shine. Thank you so much for being there. Can ambition be learned?
It's very hard, however, you can learn it by associating with other ambitious people. Let me give you an example. There are multi-level marketing, network marketing companies here in Poland and all over the world. And many people are attracted into these companies, or their friends bring them into the companies, and they may not be very ambitious. They may be working class, if you like. They may come from limited homes. They may be working at average jobs. But then they start to go to the meetings, and everyone is talking about success and hard work and persistence and achievement. And then they have speakers who talk about this. And then suddenly it's almost like lights go on, and they think, I can do this too. I know that person from school, and look how successful he is, or she is. And suddenly they realize, I can do this. I can do that as well. And they become totally different people. And a few years later you meet them, and a person who was shy and quiet and lacking self-confidence at school now is got a big organization, and they're giving speeches, and they live in a big house. And who is that?
So one of the ways is to surround yourself with the people who can inspire you, who are ambitious, who most probably know more than you do.
50 years of research at Harvard came up with this conclusion, is your choice of the people that you associate with will have more influence on your success and happiness than any other factor in your life. At Harvard, they call this your social group. And they are the people that you identify with, your friends at work, your people that you go out for dinner with. Your spouse is a very important part of this. If you have a really positive spouse, many men have been transformed into very successful men because their spouse was so supporting and so positive. And they thought, well, I can do this. When I was a young man and got married, I had an incident where I started a business and I lost all my money. And I had to sell my house. I had a house. And I had to sell everything and move into a small house. And I said to my wife, I said, you know, we may lose all of our money if my business keeps going this way. And she said, well, it's only money. I know you'll be successful sooner or later.
Mm-hmm.
And I never forgot that,
mm-hmm.
because her confidence in me was 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And that enabled me to go out and work and make mistakes and lose money and even move to a small house
mm-hmm.
and even move to a rented house and then a rented apartment bought because of her confidence, at least partially.
Mm-hmm.
I eventually became very successful.
Is it connected with having work-life balance as well? Because we spoke about surrounding yourself with positive people, but also you're mentioning that having a family and then well-established marriage might be helpful.
Yes. It's very important to understand that when you are young, you must work extremely hard to
mm-hmm.
be successful. The average is about 60 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not working 60 hours a week in your 20s and 30s, then you probably will not be very successful
mm-hmm.
in life. You'll always worry about money.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never have enough money. So therefore, you have to have imbalance
mm-hmm.
at a certain stage in your life. But then you have to make up for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I work and travel long distances. But when I'm not working and traveling, I spend all of my time with my family.
Mm-hmm.
My children once said to me, we were having dinner, and they all agreed. They said, you spend more time with us than, even though you travel all the time, than our friends' parents do, even though they're at home all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because their parents play golf, watch television, work on the computer,
mm-hmm.
do other things. But when I'm not working, I spend time with my family, and that's how I've been able to achieve balance.
That's very important what you're saying, also from our Polish point of view, because when it comes to reproduction and family, orientation, less and less Poles are deciding to have children. And one of the reasons is connected with the fact that they are so career-oriented and so professional-oriented that they don't see that career and family not only can go together, but also should go together, because we need this work-life balance to be able to function happily.
I've studied this, and so has The Economist magazine of England. And they did a report on this, and they said the higher you raise the taxes
mm-hmm.
in any country, the lower is the birth rate. Because people lose hope
mm-hmm.
for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And the higher the retirement pensions are, and the earlier they begin, the less people have children.
Mm-hmm.
Because they cannot afford to pay for the previous generation, their parents and grandparents, plus the new generation. So they just put off having children because they don't have enough money.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you lower taxes, what happens is people have more hope
mm-hmm.
for the future. And it's only when you have hope that you have children.
Of course. And then you become more entrepreneurial,
Yes.
more ambitious,
Yes.
and then you're out of the vicious circle, then you
Yes.
can have more money,
Yes.
then you're more happy, and
Yes.
everything goes the way it should.
Yeah. And some people say, well, I want to have work-life balance. Yes, but it's too soon.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you must be successful.
Mm-hmm.
A very interesting woman wrote an article recently that was very controversial. She said that the first job of a woman is to get married well. It's not to have a career, and it's not to express yourself. She said your first job is to find the right man and get married well.
Wow.
Because if you are married well, then you can do anything.
That's a risky thing to say nowadays.
Yes, but here's the discovery. If you are single, you think about being single all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You think about it all the time. You wake up, you go to sleep throughout the day. You're always thinking about being single and about finding the right person.
Mm-hmm.
And so you never really settle down or focus, especially women who are designed by nature to have good relationships and to raise children.
Mm-hmm.
Until they have that part of their life solid,
mm-hmm.
they are never focused or happy.
Mm-hmm.
And for men, if men do not have women in their lives, that's all they think about.
Mm-hmm.
Every bar is filled with single men.
Yeah.
You know that 80% of the Syrian refugees that are coming to Europe today are single men
mm-hmm.
in their 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Only 20% are older people or women or children. And they come, only 20% of them come from Syria.
Mm-hmm.
All the rest come from Bangladesh, from as far as away, Afghanistan,
Mm-hmm.
Iraq, Iran,
Mm-hmm.
and Africa. And they're all young men, and you know what they're looking for? They're looking for girls. because their own societies are extremely repressed, and women are kept at home and so on. So you say this immigrant crisis is not families pouring into Europe. It's 80% of it is young men looking for jobs, money, and girlfriends.
Which is what is mostly on the minds of younger men, anyway.
Yes, of course, and that's the way nature has designed us to be assured that the human population will go forward.
Sure. Which is also connected with one research that shows that the highest potential a man can achieve happens between when he's 40 and 65.
Exactly.
Because this is when he's not focusing on running behind girls anymore.
Yes, also he has his skills. He has gone through the very high expense of getting married, getting a home, having children, bringing them up. The children are now in their late teens, sometimes early 20s, and now the man's mind is clear and his skills, talents are at the highest level of his life. And that's why he will make more money in the next few years than he's made in all the years before.
So one of the secrets of Brian Tracy is Miss Tracy.
I've always said that my wife is the best part of my life. She's a wonderful woman, and I have wonderful children.
This is amazing because we as public speakers, mostly we are, in the view of everyone and we are admired and so on, but people don't realize that behind, in the backstage, there's families, there's wives who support us, who tolerate everything we do, and who wouldn't be so inspired by us being always idealistic the way sometimes audiences see us. And the role of wife and family seems to be fundamental for being able to focus on work.
Yes, because other than that, we think about it all the time. When a person is in a bad relationship, there was a book that was written by a woman who went through a divorce for 2 years. And they went to court, and they had lawyers, and there were trials, and so on. And the book was called Crazy Time. And she said after 2 years, when it was all over, it was like she woke up and crazy time was over. And when you have a bad relationship or no relationship or a troubled relationship, you go through a form of crazy time that is very distracting. You think about it all the time. And so you can't really focus. Now, here's what I have discovered, and I've taught time management for 30 years. Is that the most important quality for success is focus. And it comes from a recent study where they asked Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, two of the richest men in the world. Most important quality for success, they said, is focus. Now, the key to focus is to complete tasks. So in all my work on time management, I realized that successful people start and complete their tasks. And they get better and better at starting and completing more and more important tasks. And this is the foundation of all success.
This could explain why you've written 70 books, is it?
72 books. I have number 73 is 80% written, and I've just gotten a contract for 2 more books.
Of course, because 72 just doesn't sound enough,
Well, what happens is the most amazing thing is publishers. The biggest publishers in the world come to me and ask me if I would write books for them. And I had the biggest single publisher in the world today is Random House. Random House has 50 other publishers under its umbrella. And they contacted me in February through an agent. And they said, we would like you to write at least 2 books for us. And I said, wow, wonderful. And they're offering very high advances, a lot of money, more than most people make in 2 or 3 years of hard work, just as an advance. And I said, oh, okay, yes, this is not a hard decision. What subject do you want me to write the book on? They said, well, we really have no idea. What subject would you suggest? And I said, well, I've been thinking about books on this subject and that subject. They said, we'll take them. We like them both. When can we have the first one? We need the first one within 60 days. I said, 60 days? Usually a book takes a year to write. But he said, we know that you can write books very well and very quickly. So if you could have the first book for us within 60 days, we will bring it out at the end of the year. And then the second book we need about 6 months later. So I did. I wrote the book for them, and they got it, and the book is ready to be published and on its way to the bookstores. And the second book, they came back to me and said, what about the second book? I said, I just finished the first. No, no, we're ready for the second book now.
Is it one of the reasons why you still keep on going? I mean, many people, with all the respect, at your age would say, oh, I'm tired, you know, oh, it's time to retire. Jesus, Brian Tracy doesn't seem to want to retire.
Well, take something like writing a book. And I talked about task completion. What I found was that the most important part of your personality is your level of self-esteem, which is how much you like yourself, how much you feel very good about yourself. You feel valuable and important. And self-esteem, very simply, comes from task completion. We say that the self-esteem is on one side of the coin, and the other side is called self-efficacy, or how effective or productive you feel you are. So every time you complete a task, it gives you a burst of self-esteem and energy. If you don't complete tasks, you go around in circles. Here's a question. Have you ever seen a happy government servant? No, because they never complete any tasks. Government tasks are always circular, like the horse pulling the mill around. That's all they do. And so they're never happy, and they're never enthusiastic, and they always want more money and less work, because they think maybe that will make them happy. But what makes you happy is starting and completing a task.
Brian has been talking a lot about ability to planning. I'd like to break for a moment and give you a few very important techniques on how to schedule your goals in the correct way. Only 8% of people who have decided on the 31st of December, which is New Year's Eve, that they will change their lives, after 6 months will still pursue their plans. This is mostly because of inadequate planning and lack of ability to do it in a correct way. What should be taken into consideration once you want to achieve a goal? Firstly, write it down. Once it's written down, the probability of achieving it grows. Secondly, tell it to all the other people who are around you, who are important for you. Once you share your goal with others, they will not only be of support, but also you will again elaborate the possibility of achieving it. Thirdly, make sure it's stated in positive. Don't say, I don't want to be fat. Say, I want to lose weight. This is already focusing your mind on what should be achieved. Fourthly, make sure that you stick to behaviors instead of abstract concepts. It's way better to say, I'm running 3 times a week, 30 minutes before I eat breakfast, rather than saying, I want to lose weight, because the second one, the latter, is not specific and is not measurable. Make also sure that your objectives are ecological, which means that once you achieve them, it's good for the systems in which you function, which is your family, which is your employees, which is your community, and even your country. Because achieving only egoistic plans and dreams may sabotage your cooperation and your functionality in different communities where you are. Make also sure at the very end that your aim is measurable, which means that you can know when you have achieved it, so that you know what you're aiming for. Once all these techniques are taken into consideration, the probability of achieving your plans and realizing your dream definitely grows.
Even if what you do is you make dinner or part of dinner for your family, and you all sit down and eat it, and they say, that tastes really good. You feel happy, and you want to do it again.
Sure.
So when I write a book, and I have a reputation for submitting my books on schedule, and in publishing that's a big problem, because 80% of authors don't submit the book on time, and that really hurts the publisher.
Sure.
So they say to me, would you write a book on this subject? Like, for instance, they asked me to write a book on self-discipline, which has now become a worldwide bestseller. I say, yes. When do you need the book? What date? And so I say, well, we need the book by September 1st. So this is January or February. I say, all right, I will have it in your hands, ready to go by September 1st. Now, because I know how long it takes to write a book, and it's always on time.
Great.
And so the next time they say, we need someone to write a book on a popular subject, they call me and say, would you write a book on this subject for us? Because they know it will be completed on time.
So, doing things on time.
Yes.
Having a very good relationship.
Yes.
Marriage would work.
Yes.
Bringing your children up in a very positive way and empowering them. self-esteem and self-efficacy.
Yes.
Did I sum it up right?
Yes.
If I have all those traits, which even though they might be sometimes difficult to learn, but still I can manage to learn them and to study them to become better, do my chances of being successful in life, no matter what I do, go up?
If you add one more ingredient, which we'll talk about in our book, is setting goals. Having very clear goals that you're working on every day gives you tasks to complete.
Are you talking about the book you wrote with Sebastian Kotov?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. So we start off that book talking about goals and the importance of setting goals and how to set and achieve goals, because that is the point of the spear in success. They just did a study and they found that 95% of rich people have one big goal that they work on all the time. Only 3% of poor people have one big goal.
It's fascinating. I also read that 95% of people live without the purpose of life. They don't know why they are functioning, what they are living for.
Exactly. And so one of the most successful things we do in our seminars, and I'm sure you do the same thing, and in our books, is we show people how simple and easy it is to take a piece of paper and write down a goal and make a plan and work on it every day. And that transforms people's life. Aristotle said that the great goal of human life is to be happy. And he also said that human beings are purpose-driven. And they are only happy when you feel yourself moving toward achieving a purpose or goal. If you don't have a goal, you're missing one of the great keys to happiness. And so when you have a goal and you work on it every day, you're constantly feeling happy. It constantly gives you energy and self-esteem. And as you work toward the goal, your confidence level goes up, and your people around you like you and respect you more. You earn more money. You feel happier about every part of your life.
And I understand that you being here, one of your goals is to empower all of us Polish people to have better lives, which you've been doing so beautifully, which we're all enormously grateful. Please visit us more often. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you, Mateusz. Thank you.
So, hope you have learned a lot and enjoyed what we have talked about. If you liked it, please make sure that you ask us different questions that we can answer, comment on this movie, and share it with your friends so that more people can have access to the best personal development tools available. And of course, if you haven't done that yet, please make sure you correct that error and subscribe right now this channel by clicking here so that you can be informed by us about all the good pieces of advice and knowledge that we put on this channel. Thank you very much and see you soon.